Hey everyone, in the previous video, we created the UI for the Pokemon skills page in our summary screen. So in this video, we'll display the data of the Pokemon in this page, and we'll also look at how to change the Pokemon from the summary screen using the up and down input like this. So let's look at how to implement this. By the way, our team just released a parkour and climbing system asset on Unity's asset store. It's an out-of-the-box system with which you can set up parkour and climbing mechanics in your game in just a few minutes. This is the most advanced version of a parkour and climbing system I've created so far. It comes with features like predictive jumps, procedural climbing, balancing on narrow obstacles, etc. So I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. The asset also comes with the entire source code. So if you want, you can also review the code and learn how each feature is implemented. Alright, so let's start the video. So first, I'll create a script for showing the data in the summary screen. So let me go to the scripts folder, and under UI, I'll create a new script called summary screen UI. Okay. So in here, we need to get a reference to all the UI elements in the summary screen whose values can be changed. So yeah, we need to create a lot of references. So first I'll create references for the Pokemon name, level, and image. Okay. I'll create a text for the Pokemon name. So we have to import the Unity Engine.UI namespace. I'll just call this name text. Then I'll duplicate it and create the level text. And then I'll create an image. Okay. So next, we need to get the reference of all the stats text and the text for showing the XP and all that. So to keep things segregated, I'll add a header over here. I'll just call this basic details. Alright, and then I'll create another header. I'll call this Pokemon skills. And here we have to create a text for all the stat and the HP and all that. So to save time, I'll just copy and paste all the references. Okay. So we have a text for each stat, and then for the XP points and the next level XP. Okay. And while we're here, we can also grab reference to the transform of the XP bar for setting its value. So I'll create another serialized field variable, and this will be a transform for the XP bar. Okay. So next, I'll create public functions to set all these things. So first I'll create a public function called set basic details. So this will take a Pokemon object as a parameter. And from here we have to set the basic details like name, level, and image. So let me go ahead and do that. All this is pretty basic stuff. Alright. So we can even cache the Pokemon so that we don't have to take it as a parameter in the other functions. Okay. So this function will set the basic details. So next, I'll create another public function for setting the skills. So let me just call this set skills. And just like we did in the basic details, we have to set the values in all these text. So again, to save time, I'll copy and paste the code for setting all the stats. Okay. So next we have to set the total XP points and XP to reach the next level. So XP points we can get from Pokemon.xp. Alright. But how can we get the XP to reach the next level? So we can get the total XP required for a level by calling Pokemon.base.get XP for level function. So we can use this function to get the XP required for level. So in this case, since we want the next XP, I'll pass the current level of the Pokemon plus 1. Okay. So this will give us the total XP needed to reach the next level. But we don't want the total XP in this case. We just need to know how much more XP does this Pokemon need to reach the next level. So we can get that by subtracting the current XP of the Pokemon from the total XP required for the next level. Okay, so let me also convert this into a string so that we can set it into our text. Okay, so next we need to set the value in the XP bar. So if you look at our Battle HUD script, we have a function here called setXP, and from here, to set the scale of the XP bar, we are finding the normalized XP, right, which we get by using this formula. So we can reuse this function for setting the XP in the XP bar of our summary screen. So what I'll do is I'll just move this function to some place that's more accessible. It won't be good to access the Battle HUD from summary screen. So let me just move this function to Pokemon class. All right. So here I'll just add the get normalized XP function, and we have to make it public. Okay. And by the way, since we're calling it from the Pokemon class itself, we don't have to use Pokemon dot. All right. And now to fix the errors that we have here, we just have to call Pokemon dot get normalized XP. Okay. Let me also fix that over here. So now since we separated the function, we can actually use it to set the value of our XP bar from the summary string. So I'll set the local scale, and the X scale will be the normalized value of the Pokemon's HP. So I'll just call Pokemon dot get normalized XP, and Y will always be 1. You don't have to change Y. Okay. So this is all we have to do in our summary string UI. So let's actually attach it to the summary string game object. All right. And we have to assign all these references. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. It would have been good to name our text properly, but this is also fine. Since we know the order, it shouldn't be a big issue to assign it. All right. And finally, I'll also assign the XP bar. Here I'll just rename this to XP bar area to avoid confusions. The actual XP bar is inside here, right? So yeah, we have assigned everything. So now we can create a state for showing the summary screen. So let me go ahead and do that. So inside scripts, in game states, I'll go ahead and create a new state called summary state. Okay, and this will be a state of game controller. So in here, first we have to make it a singleton so that we can access it from anywhere we want. Okay, and in here we also need a reference to the summary screen UI. So let me create an object for that. All right, and next I'll override the enter function. And from the enter function, we have to set the data of the Pokemon into the summary screen. Right. So from here, first I'll enable the summary screen. And then we can set the data by calling summary screen dot set basic details and set skills function. So while calling the set basic details function, we have to pass the Pokemon. So we can get the Pokemon as the input of the state. So here, let me create an input for the state. And instead of getting the Pokemon, I'll get the index of the Pokemon. The reason is because having an index over here will allow us to easily change the Pokemon from the summary state without going back. Okay, so here I'll take the index of selected Pokemon, and since we have the index, we also need the list of Pokemon in the player's party so that we can get the reference of the Pokemon using the index. So here I'll create a list of Pokemon. I'll just call this player party, and then I'll cache a reference to it from the start function. The reason why I'm doing it from the start function is because we need to access the player controller singleton to get the player's party. Okay, so if we do it from the awake, we might be calling the singleton even before it is assigned. So yeah, I'll just get the Pokemons in the player's party. Okay, and here I'll just pass player party of selected Pokemon index. Alright, so next we can also call the set skills function to set all the skills of the Pokemon. Alright, so this will show the summary screen and it will set the data of the Pokemon into each field. Okay, so in the enter function, let me also cache a reference to the game controller. We'll have to use it later. Okay, and next let me override the exit function. From the exit function, we just have to disable the summary screen. Alright, and next I'll override the execute function, and from the execute function we can check if the player pressed the back button, and if that was pressed, then we can just pop the summary state. Okay, this has to be get key down, and if the X key was pressed, then we'll go ahead and pop the state, and I'll just return from this execute function. Alright, so this is all we have to do from the summary state. So now we can go ahead and push the state when the player selects summary screen from the dynamic menu. Okay, so from here we can call state machine dot push and wait function, and we can push and wait for the summary state. Okay, and before doing it, we also have to set the input for the selected Pokemon. So do we have the selected Pokemon in here? No, we don't have it in this function. We only have it over here. So we can also take it as a parameter to this function. Okay, let me pass it while calling this function. And we can use that to set the input of summary state. Okay, so this is while selecting the Pokemon from the battle. So we also have to handle the case when a Pokemon is selected while we are in the free roam. That's over here. I'll just copy these two lines here. Alright, so this will push the summary state if summary was selected from the party state. Okay, so now let's go to Unity, and first we have to attach the summary state to our game controller. So let me go ahead and do that. Alright, and to this we have to assign the summary screen UI. Alright, and now we can just disable the summary screen UI by default. We are also enable the battle UI. So let me also disable that. And let's try testing if the summary screen is working. So I'll open the menu, go to Pokemon, and if I select the Pokemon and then select summary, you can see that it's showing all the details of the Pokemon. Alright, right now the Pokemon haven't gained any XP in battle. That's why this bar is empty, but this bar should also work. Okay, and by the way, our state stack is getting in the way, so we could hide it if you want. And also we could write a text like level before showing the level to indicate that this is the level of the Pokemon. So let me do those. So first, let me just indicate that this is the level, and then I'll also get rid of the state stack log so that we can see our UI properly. Okay, let me just comment these lines. That's printing the states. All right, and now let's go to the summary screen. So now we can see it much more clearly, and we can also try selecting a different Pokemon. All right, so yeah, the summary screen is working. And by the way, we should also be able to change the Pokemon from the summary screen itself by using the up and down input without going back and selecting a different Pokemon, right? So that is pretty easy to achieve. From the summary state, we just have to change the selected Pokemon index based on the up and down input. So let me go ahead and do that. So if the down input is pressed, then I'll go ahead and increment the selected Pokemon index. Okay, and when we do this, we also have to make sure that the selected index doesn't go beyond the number of Pokemons in our party. So from here, I'll check if the selected Pokemon index is greater than or equal to playerparty.count. And if that's the case, then we'll just circle the selection by going back to the first Pokemon in the party. Okay, so I'll do that by setting the selected Pokemon index back to 0. Alright, and next, if the up input is pressed, then I'll decrement the selected Pokemon index. And in this case, we have to make sure that the index doesn't go below 0. So I'll check if it's less than or equal to 0. And in that case, I'll set it to playerparty.count -1. Okay, that will make it switch to the last Pokemon in the party. So this code will change the selected Pokemon index. And if the selected Pokemon changed, then we have to change the data shown in the summary screen, right? So to check if the selected Pokemon changed, first I'll store the previous selection in an integer variable, and then after executing these lines, if the selected Pokemon index changed, and if it's not equal to the previous selection, then we can go ahead and change the data in the summary screen. So we can do that by calling these two functions. All right. So that's all we have to do to change the Pokemon from the summary screen. So let's go to Unity and test this. Okay, let me open up the summary screen. And now you can see that we can change the Pokemon in the summary screen by using the up and down input. But one thing I noticed over here is that for Charmander, the name and levels are not being shown. It's working for all the other Pokemon, but it's not working for Charmander. So it's probably because the name of the Charmander doesn't fit in our text. So let me just check what that issue is. Okay, so I'll pause the recording and figure out what the issue was. So it's not happening because the length of the text. It's happening because when we set the Charmander sprite, it's increasing the height of the image and it's leaving less space for the name and level text. Okay, so this issue doesn't happen when I use any other Pokemon. It's only happening for the Charmander's image. Okay, that looks like a weird issue. So we could fix this by using a fixed width and height for the Pokemon image instead of setting it using the vertical layout group. It doesn't really matter if the Pokemon's image doesn't scale with the UI size, right? So we can keep those fixed. Alright, we can keep it to something like 230 by 230. And now if I change the image to Charmander, it won't change the size of the image. Okay, let me also make it a bit bigger so that we have enough padding here. So yeah, that issue should be fixed now, and the summary screen should work for all the Pokemon. So yeah, now we can see that we don't have any issues, and we are able to change the Pokemon from the summary screen by using the up and down input. And by the way, right now the XP bar doesn't have any data in them. So just to test if the XP bar is working, we could do a battle and increase the XP of one of the Pokemon. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so we increased the XP and our Pokemon also evolved. So now let's go to the summary screen and see if these changes are reflected. Alright, so you can see that the changes are reflected. Here we are showing the data of the evolved Pokemon instead of the old Pokemon. And now we also have data in the XP bar. So yeah, everything's working fine. So we're done with the implementation of the Pokemon skills page. So next we have to create the page for showing the Pokemon's moves and all that in the summary screen. So we'll be doing that in the next video. So I'll stop the video here. If you think this video is helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next video.